In 1984, the Vietnamese army became obsessed with provocation. Mobilized 1 million troops. I never expected Deng Xiaoping to be so ruthless and direct. Give an order. Artillery roar. 20 days without stopping. After 4 months, Vietnam suddenly realized. It's an amazing sight. February 17th, 19. China has faced repeated incidents and provocations from Vietnam. I can't stand it. And decided to go for it. Launched the necessary self-defense counterattack against Vietnam. The two counties attacked simultaneously. General Yang Dezi, at the helm of West County, Yunnan. There's General Xu Zhu in Dongshan County, Guangxi. Our army descends like a tiger. Rapid progress. At the beginning of the war, Vietnam is clearly vulnerable. It's like a beat. No counterattack at all. On the one hand, Vietnam mistakenly believes that our army will not take the offensive anytime soon. It was a strategic setback. On the other hand, the Vietnamese think very highly of themselves. Unexpectedly, the combat effectiveness of our army is strong. They're self-proclaimed third place in the world, facing the offensive of our army. Danger fatigue. The afternoon of the first day, our generals will lead the troops. Quickly occupied Dau in northern Vietnam. The Vietnamese army was losing ground. When criminal offenses against the Vietnamese army, they just woke up. You can't fight our army on your own. So they quickly reported that they had lost contact. After a long time, the Soviet Union asked for help. Although the Soviet Union could provide weapons and equipment, give financial assistance, even dispatch military advisors. But given the flag situation at the time, the Soviets didn't want to fight. Yurjun finally realized at this time, I want to win our army by head-on alone. Basically a dream. And so they started thinking about guerrilla warfare, trying to slow us down. But this one, in fact, as early as the French-Vietnamese War, it's the old job we handed over to the Vietnamese army. Guerrilla in front of us, it's tantamount to seeking short-sightedness. Our army quickly launched countermeasures. Armored vehicles take the lead. Simultaneously, multiple squads infiltrated behind enemy lines. Vietnamese soldiers walking in the mountains one by one. Take it by name. And the main force is close behind, ready to support. This flawless tactical layout easily put the Vietnamese army. The hard-built sutures are destroyed, especially in the Bright Mountain wing. We used hundreds of cannons directly. Covered bombing? Let the mountain become a ruin. I can't even find a complete house. This battle directly wiped out more than 10,000 month. Put their so-called elite troops beat to pieces. As our eastern and western counties advance hand in hand, the northern town of the Vietnamese army, it has all fallen into our hands. Hanoi is already in the bag. Determined that the strategic goal has been achieved, issued a withdrawal order, but no one expected, the Moon Army still has the guts. After the war, 1.20 million army was assembled. Dreaming of a comeback? In 1984, when Vietnam's million-strong army, when arrogance approaches our borders, Deng Xiaoping did not hesitate to order continuous bombardment for 20 days. This made the Vietnamese army pee their butts. Don't dare to act rashly. Why did the Vietnamese army dare to perch at the door again? Simply because they were on the opposite moon in 1979. Strike back. Lost badly. Feel humiliated? Before the war, the Vietnamese army bragged about itself. As soon as the soldiers started, immediately beaten by our army. Crushing defeat. Our army advanced all the way to their capital, in front of the gates of Hanoi. Vietnamese bosses have panicked. They were going to run. This is obvious, even Yu Fang knows. If our army continues to advance, their so-called kingdom is doomed. This ball, it is to make Vietnam lose face internationally and lose home. Their status has plummeted over the voice. No one gives their love anymore. Gao Ziyai became the third largest in the world. It's hard to trip the overlord's dream talk seriously. And Vietnam itself was furious. Start talking bad. Said we were withdrawing because of a lack of strength. This self-deception gradually became a kind of self-hypnosis in Vietnam. They are determined to regain face. And in 1980, the wounds on the Vietnamese side have not yet healed. They began to strengthen their military presence near the border again. There are also various small movements in the dark. For example, sending a reconnaissance team to wait for an opportunity, or quietly fire a cannon or something. They also sent troops to Laos and Cambodia, all recalled. In a very short time, collected a super army of up to 1.20 million. Vietnam had 50,000 million people back then. Can pull out so many soldiers. It's really a bit crazy. Since the self-defense counterattack against Vietnam, the Vietnamese people have been up the ante. At that time, the #1 man in Vietnam, Lee Ruo, also spoke grandly. Dare to claim that as long as it is a place where K-pop can be opened, even in Vietnam. This is simply focusing on our Guangdong and Guangxi on the ground. Yu Jun and our border guards frequently misfired. Even the boundary monument was pushed. This is the Lark not taking our country seriously. They are also aggressive on the sea, even directly. Take most of the islands of our Nansha Islands. All occupied. They regrouped. Explicit appearance watched again. The determination to start a war. Vietnamese movement. It poses a serious security threat to us. But it's also a bit broken. Trying to pull us into the water? After all, during the counterattack against the Vietnamese hedgehog, in order to prevent their return light, not only destroyed their northern military industry, he also took back all the previous aid, make them angry. But our country is different from them. At that time, our country was standing at the beginning of economic development. Online versus war. We place greater emphasis on economic infrastructure. This is the development direction given to us by the Times. Deng Xiaoping did not immediately counterattack. They're taking a more strategic approach. In 1984, Vietnam created a 1 million army of Dong people to challenge our country again. As a result, it was directly operated by Deng Xiaoping's god, which was not light. 20 days of bombardment. Yu Jun was probably scared silly. I didn't figure it out until 4 months later. I fell into a trap. Earlier, the Vietnamese army not only occupied the Loshan area at will, still doing small tricks in hiding, such as reconnaissance sneak attack, but Deng Xiaoping hit it with one hit. Review multiple potential. Understand that war is never a long-term solution. Our main focus should be on economic development. Our army took a hard move and bombed indiscriminately. We used a powerful weapon system. The location of the Vietnamese army in Loshan, a full range of coverage strikes, gave them a heavy blow. The Vietnamese army may have thought at first, that's just a drop in the bucket. But it didn't take long to realize that the situation was very different. Our artillery shells followed. There's no end to it. They just have to hide around. The 20-day bombardment. The Vietnamese army was thrown into extreme panic. My heart is already beating. I'm afraid we'll repeat the moon match in 1979. A feat of self-defense. Yu Jun was almost bombarded by this arduous artillery. Torment exhaustion. And Deng Xiaoping took advantage of their exhaustion. Sent the only 20,000 of our army. Successfully recaptured the old mountain in one fell swoop. Immediately following the Battle of Song Maoling, the Vietnamese army suffered heavy casualties. Retreat without power. The harsh training ground of our 2 mountain cities. Constantly develop experienced troops. Finally, the Vietnamese army fully realized the reality. No longer have a heart. Admitting the fact that Laoshan belongs to our country. The victory of this strategic layout. Credit to Deng Xiaoping's vision and reality. His exploits are truly unparalleled.